Hello and welcome to Game Changer Live. We were created to inspire with topics around coaching, positive mindset, neuroscience, overcoming perfectionism, and so much more. We endeavor to bring you unedited and authentic content, and that's why we choose to go live. So, who you see today in all of my imperfection is who you actually get to work with or meet in the real world outside of YouTube. Our shows air most every Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time with occasional guests. And I want to announce a slight change to our format starting today. I'm going to be curating my guests a little bit more to be in line with the mission of the show to inspire around coaching specifically. The motto for this channel is just that. Together, we inspire. So let's get inspired today. My name is Daniel Connor. I'm an ACC and CPC certified coach. I'm a leader for my local chapter of the International Coaching Federation, and I'm the owner of a coaching program called Connor's Coaching and the host of this weekly live show, Game Changer Live. And from my viewpoint, perfection is the worst. It looks like holding yourself back or pretending to be someone you're not to impress someone else or try to control the future or thoughts or feelings of other people. My clients learn to overcome perfection by changing from the inside out. So instead of holding themselves back, they make progress and produce results. And rather than spending all of their time pretending to be someone they're not to impress someone who doesn't actually matter in their life, they learn to define who they want to be. And ultimately, my clients wake up to feel satisfied with the person that they see reflected back in the mirror. Our topic today is going to be on the first act or first quarter, I guess, of the hero's journey. And before I explain what the hero's journey is, I just want to tell a common story that I see as a coach that I work when I work with my clients. So my clients oftentimes start by looking around their life and feeling a general sense of dissatisfaction about something in their life. And they might not be able to put their finger on it at first. It's just this kind of nagging feeling that there could be something better. And they might even take stock of their life and realize that they're actually fairly blessed and they don't feel deserving of feeling that dissatisfaction. But ultimately, they may find one area of their life, maybe their current job, where they feel that dissatisfaction more than usual. And they realize that if they could fix this one problem, this one issue, this one area of their life that they feel dissatisfied about, it potentially could change everything. But then that change becomes scary. It feels massive. It feels uncontrollable, especially the outcome. Even thinking about it might send you into a cold sweat, because who likes the unknown? And still, now that you've seen that demon, that problem in your life, it's impossible to unsee it. You experience it over and over again, and you cannot handle it anymore. So maybe at that point you reach out and hire a coach like me. And we work together to point out the irrationality of the fear, to get clear on your goals, to figure out what the possibilities of taking action are. And ultimately, you decide if you're going to take action. And when you do, we work together to form a game plan on what that looks like. That is the hero's journey. So, the hero's journey is, first of all, the hero's journey also is called the monomyth. It was created by Joseph Campbell, or at least it was identified by Joseph Campbell in 1949. And it's oftentimes dismissed because it's just a generalization about stories in general. And there are some problematic elements to the monomyth that cause it to be kind of worthy of being thrown out from an academic setting. It's misogynistic, there's some privilege bias, and uh, and so it's largely out of favor in terms of academia, in terms of teaching it in academia. But there is a reason that you can use it to map out almost every plot structure that human beings have ever written in stories for the past 3,000 or so years. And that's because ultimately it's a roadmap for the way that humans tend to grow over time if you gloss over the misogyny, that's a word. Um, if you gloss over the misogyny and the privilege bias, you can see the story of humans just in general. At least that's how I use it. So the story starts out that the hero is at home in a familiar setting. And the hero's fairly comfortable, maybe even a little complacent in that starting area. But not too long into the story, the hero gets a call to adventure, a call to action, a call to move forward, to move beyond the threshold of their house, of their home. And again, this is a story that has existed for thousands of years because it's a perfect roadmap for humans identifying and getting better at something or overcoming some form of obstacle in their life. That's what makes this a meta plot that and that means that overarching is a story trope that almost all stories follow. And this is looking at it kind of like having a hole that you fit on top of the peg, the square hole on the square peg, because it's really a story of humanity, of how we overcome obstacles over and over from birth all the way up until death. This is what humans do. We find something that we're not dissatisfied with and we work to overcome it. And over the course of that attempt to overcome it, we learn some new truths about ourselves. We become aware of our potential and we fit into that new realm and ultimately conquer whatever villain that it is that we need to conquer. And of course, stories are never that simple, but again, we're generalizing here. We're generalizing about stories, and we do this all the time. We do fit the hero's journey all the time in our lives. We decide something needs to change. We work hard to make it happen. We eventually conquer some form of demon that lives within us, and we change. You're not the same person that you used to be. And we're no longer the same person we used to be. When we set out to do the thing, we change immediately as soon as we cross that threshold. Ultimately, the hero's journey is all about self-discovery, awareness, seizing the sword, and making a shift. And I want to spend a few episodes talking about the various different aspects of the hero's journey that I think are specifically important. And so in this episode, we're really talking about the very front part of the hero's journey, the hero leaving the house, and taking on the adventure. But in a future episode, I want to talk about the end, because there's some really interesting ways in which the hero's journey changes depending on how the hero faces change at the end of the journey. So we'll talk about that later. But right now, want to really focus on the first part. So we're going to break it down kind of simply. I'm not following Joseph Campbell's original plot because largely he talks a lot in misogynistic terms about women. And instead, I'm going to be using kind of more the 2007 and later models that have been adapted for this. And a lot of this is going to sound familiar and it's going to feel like you are being described here because you are. Because every human being is. So, most heroes' journeys start out with the hero at home. And during this phase, we get real familiar with the world of the hero, what the hero is experiencing. And in this period, the hero is identifying the things in their lives that they feel blessed over, that they enjoy, that they like, The environment around the hero also helps tell the story of the hero. Maybe the hero is a great cook and really dislikes going to the grocery store. Um, and so you start to see the hero kind of evolving, and part of the telling of that story is how the hero is experiencing his home or her home. And then something happens, and the hero is called to adventure to challenge the status quo, and they have to look around and figure out what's going to happen next. So, uh, when I'm working with a client and I'm applying the hero's journey to the client's experience, at this point where we're at right now, where the hero is at home, this is a fantastic opportunity for the human to look around, and or the hero to look around and take stock, the present state of things, and identify the things in their lives that they feel blessed about, and also the things in their life that they don't want to keep up, or would be better off if it went away or disappeared. So for example, in my original story, this is the point in which maybe you look at your career and you realize that your career isn't as fulfilling as it could be, and that you would be better off if you shifted in that area. Now, this is a great point in time to also talk about the hero's journey is oftentimes put on the hero, that the hero is uh, perfectly happy staying at home and doesn't really want to leave the house. And so this can also be something that happens with a major life-changing event like the death of a loved one, or maybe the loss of a job, or maybe it's retirement. Maybe you're making a big shift. Maybe you're transitioning into something else. And so taking stock of the things in your life before the change happens is a really great way of staying grounded and making sure that you can preserve the things in your life that you want to keep around and keep and preserve going forward when the changes all start to happen. And this becomes easier. The journey itself becomes easier if you outline the reasons that a change would be useful at this point. That um, human beings generally fear change, generally fear the unknown, generally fear the uncontrollable. And whenever you're looking at making big changes in your life, identifying the reason that those changes are, and being really clear with yourself about the reason why those changes are necessary or beneficial, can really help set you up for success. Because human beings are 100% capable of change. We do it all the time. So we don't need to fear it. The next stage in the hero's journey is the call to adventure, or the call to action. And this is often that initial thought. That is, someone ought to do something about that. Or this specifically needs to change, whatever that is. And it's almost immediately followed up with a refusal to the call. And for our hero, it's oftentimes a thought of, who am I to change this thing? Or I can't do this because whatever, fill in the blank. If the refusal to the call happens, the hero continues to be faced with a call to change and continues to feel stuck. And I see this all the time with my clients before they come to me. This is oftentimes the sticking point for any form of transition. It's the fear that holds us back, it's the refusal to the call. And once you become aware of the need for the change, that call to adventure, you'll never be able to unsee it. So it's never going to get to the point where you can just ignore that original call. Eventually, you're going to have to do something about it. Either change your plans, lower your expectations, whatever that might be. So, this call to adventure and the refusal to the call is one of those looping parts of the story where the hero might face multiple calls to adventure and multiple refusals until something changes. And oftentimes in the monomyth that we're talking about in the hero's journey, there's a consult with the wise one or supernatural assistance. I love that part. I love calling it supernatural assistance because this is where I come in. I fit the role in this hero's journey or in this model of consulting the wise one, which isn't, I don't like calling myself, I mean, I do. There's part of me that loves calling myself the wise one, the very humble part of me. But ultimately, the wise one isn't there to make decisions or to tell the hero what to do. The wise one is there to point out all of the reasons that the hero has already come up with that the changes need to happen. And the wise one is oftentimes in, I mean, you would see this in, if you look back in your life, you'll oftentimes think, I went on this journey for a big change and I went to the hairdresser and the hairdresser said something that just kind of struck me. And I felt like I could do it all of a sudden. The hairdresser in that story is the wise one that's consulted. It doesn't take a lot of effort for the wise one, but oftentimes it makes a huge difference for the hero and their comfort in accepting the call, in making the next move. So the wise one is there to help push the hero on the path and to move them forward. And there are many different kinds of wise ones that you can find in the real world. There's those hairdressers, there are ministers, there are mentors and consultants, advisors, supervisors, coaches like me. Eventually, when the hero does take up the call for action, does accept the call to adventure, that's when they cross the threshold. And at this point, it's too late to refuse the call. They'll never go back. They have to go through the journey, the long road of trials and tribulations ahead of them, because that's how they grow, and that's how they return home, and that's how they get back to a new normal. This acceptance of the call to adventure may come at a small or insignificant cost, or it may be a big one. Maybe the mentor has to go away, or maybe there's a loss of one of those things that they enjoyed or cared about, something unexpected. But you can say this, that the more difficult the first part of this story is, the more powerful the results tend to be. And that's because that inner voice, that refusal to the call that's happening, is this self-protective mind, self-protective voice from your head that's trying to keep you safe, that's trying to keep you comfortable, that's trying to not challenge you. Ultimately, I want us to look at that and think of that as self-destructive thinking, because no one ever gained anything by staying the same. No one ever fixed anything unless they actually tried to fix it. Sitting around and waiting for it to happen magically on its own just doesn't happen. Certainly not in the monomyth. So you can kind of see how this becomes a perfect roadmap for starting anything new. You survey everything that exists in your life. You decide one or two things that should change. You fear that change and maybe run from it for a while, but you can't unclose that box once you've looked in. So then maybe someone comes in and helps. Maybe you get a coach. You decide to take the plunge. And then the rest of the journey. As a perfectionist coach, most of my clients really do get stuck on that fear of change because perfectionism is all about trying to control that future state. It's trying to make sure that you've hedged your bets, that you know how people are going to react, that everything is controlled. And the refusal to the call, that step, is all about a fear of the unknown, a fear of the things that you can't control, of the monsters in the dark, and all of the things that you'll have to do to change and grow and be different than you were before. Our perfectionist natures make us fear an unknown future, and a world that we can't control doesn't feel safe. So instead, we get stuck. And ultimately, that really is where I come in. So use me as your wise one. Unlike Gandalf, I'm not going to arrive at your front door and require you to take action against your will. Instead, we're going to work together. We're going to identify the things that you want in life that you currently don't have. And we're going to create a roadmap of what it would look like to get those things. Step by step. I'm not going to push you down that path. Instead, I'm going to hold the door open for you when you're ready. Regardless of your goal, the goal really is to cross the threshold and start the journey. At this point, it's all in your head. Nothing has truly happened to the hero until they've crossed that threshold. So, this is it. This is the hero's journey in a nutshell, the start of it at least. So, here are some questions for you. What is your journey? What's happening in your life right now that you are tolerating, but if it changed, it would free you? In what ways are you getting in the way of yourself making changes or telling yourself that you're unable to proceed? What could you do if you had a wise one show up and cheer you on, helping you set your own goals? How much easier would your journey be if you had someone step out on that threshold with you? I'm a coach, and I understand emotion. I understand the fear that's involved in that refusal of the call. I think that's one of my superpowers. I'm here to share those superpowers with the world. I may be the best coach in the entire world for my clients, but I believe that fit is the most important factor when it comes to selecting a coach. That's why, if you would like to explore coaching more, it's free for a 30-minute consult. There are no strings attached, there's no risk. I'm not going to pressure you into buying my services. And you can sign up for that free consult today on my website. There is all sorts of different links in the description, but I'll make sure that the website goes into the comments. It's connorscoaching.com, and that's Connor with an ER, not an OR. Ultimately, there's no pressure to buy my services. This is all about you and supporting you in your journey. So it's time to look around your little world and decide how much bigger it could be. The endless possibilities, and yes, maybe a little fear of the unknown, but I'm here to make it easier. Thank you so much for tuning in today, for watching the show. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and comment and share this with someone else who might be motivated. I'll see you next week, 3:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And until then, bye.